I will instruct and teach you on the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eyes upon you. Psalm 37:8. And for my visual representation, I have two poems I've written. Coalition for Kids, a special place where kids can be kids, every single day, serving through Christ and teaching his lessons. Oh Lord, you know there are a couple of messes. Kids will be kids. Assisting in math and reading, oh Lord, you know it can be eerie. However, there's fun to be had, Legos, Mario, and a game in every corner. In the end, the kids must go home, but do not cry or be distraught, for they will return and once again have a smile on their face. My second poem. Why do you frown? Said the clown. The kid shrugged, for there was no fun to be found. But the clown knew that frown. The kid was silent and refused to be found. So the clown began to talk, and boy did the clown walk the talk. The clown refused to give up, for the kid deserved to be raised up. For a smile is a precious currency. For a smile on a kid is an everlasting legacy. And through his efforts, a legacy began to form on the edge of the lip of the child. So for my service learning, I decided to do Coalition for Kids. The reason I decided to do Coalition for Kids can kind of be found in that poem, is to put a smile on a kid's face and to be there for him. And also in Psalm 37:8 is to instruct and guide, for we have to be good role models to raise the next generation. So Coalition for Kids was founded 25 years ago. It was just kind of a dream, and they made it into reality. It was to serve, a community in the Appalachian area that wasn't really well supported, and to kind of continue on that, the biggest problem for the kids that Coalition for Kids serves is that they come from households that can be broken. Alcohol can be an issue, drugs, hunger, food security. These are all issues that Coalition faces, and they do it head on. They address all of these issues. And some of the root causes that is for this food insecurity, alcohol, is some areas in the Appalachian, just the families just don't have the income to support children, to give them what they need, to give them a healthy upbringing. And this kind of goes into what Coalition does, and also how their funding comes into play. Coalition for Kids is funded mainly through state, through grants, but also private organizations and just community. Some big private organizations and communities is Food City. Food City does a big chunk of it, because I worked at Kid City, which is their main site in Johnson City, and that was built by them. And kind of going along the lines of, is their funding sufficient? Right now, yes it is. They do a really good job distributing their funds. I see it every time I go into Kid City. Is they have the supplies they need. The facility itself is very well kept, and from what I know from other students who have been going to schools in which Coalition for Kids helps, which is either in the Johnson City area, Kingsport, and Sullivan County, they all report that Coalition for Kids provides these needed resources. So kind of going into Coalition for Kids, a big misconception I had was, I was like, are these kids going to be willing to learn? And will they have this yearn to want to learn, but also will they respect, want to have fun? Will they want to have a smile? And it's something I kind of learned in my education class, is that you have to take into accountability how people are raised and the outside factors. And that was a big worry of mine. It was will they want to learn? But I was wrong. They proved me wrong. every time. I had 6th and 7th graders and 4th and 5th, and they proved me wrong every time. So something that I found really unique about my service learning was just the opportunity to actually see a tangible impact. Like, it was real. Being able to go in there and kind of along the lines of my poem with the clown. The clown was me. I'm funny looking. And there was this kid named Connor. Connor really kept to himself, did not talk. And when he talked, it was a whisper. And I set out a goal. I was like, I am going to talk to Connor every day. And I'm going to sit down and I'm going to help him with his homework. And I'm going to try to get him to open up. And he never smiled. Never smiled. And when I finally got to see him smile, that was the biggest gift I think I've ever received in my life. It was a true blessing to see him smile. And it was kind of like, it was a legacy for me, seeing that kid. It was the sweetest currency I could have ever wanted in my life. And just kind of going along my growth, like civically, it makes you realize, like, if we're gonna get through a problem, we have to do it together. There's no other way. It is our responsibility as people to help one another. And I think that can be seen through the hurricane. You know, I volunteered during the hurricane as well, and it was, you help people no matter where they're at. And emotionally, gosh, roller coaster, just emotional roller coaster. My heart has been tugged in so many different directions throughout this entire process. Joy, sadness, sometimes a little bit of frustration. But at the end, it has, I think, made me, you know, a more emotionally intelligent person. And as a professional, this is invaluable work experience, because I want to become a teacher. That's my goal. I want to serve kids. And Coalition for Kids has given me some of the most valuable lessons I could ever ask for a teacher. And that is serving my students, not as, hey, I want you to do this work. Hey, let me show you something. It's, let me get to know you as a person so then I can serve you. Tell me about your problems and then we can work through it together. Because as a teacher, a lot of times I think it's like, I just need to teach my students. But there's so much more to that, because every student is unique. They're unique, and, you know, how they were raised, you know, how they learn, and also just, you know, how quiet they are, you know, how well they get along with other kids. Another student was Hunter, had a big anger issue problem. And, you know, and I realized that, and I was like, all right, how am I gonna help Hunter? And I realized that I had to connect to him at an emotional level, because I used to have really bad anger issues. So me and him bonded about that, and we discussed it, and we talked it out. And when we talked it out, he was like, okay, me and him have something in common. He's just not someone who's trying to tell me what to do. He's someone that relates to me. And for me, that allowed me to have this connection with him, and then we worked on it together. Going along the lines of the long-term goal, it's just the teaching aspect. It's being able to serve my students in the best way possible. And this goes in for my foundations of professional teaching. We learned about, you know, underserved populations in teaching and how we can provide for them. And a lot of times we think about it is that like a hot meal, because schools provide hot meals, but we don't think about the comfort aspect. We don't think about what's going back on at home. And for me, for my long-term goals, it made me realize that the teacher I want to be. I guess my big aha moment, I had a lot of those. One of the biggest ones was, seeing Connor smile. Another one was seeing another student named Owen. I helped him with long division, and slowly giving him these tips and tricks to finally see it click in his head, and him literally go, aha. And seeing him actually start doing the problems by himself, and I no longer needed to help him. That was very rewarding. And for me, that made me just realize even more that teaching is something I want to do in my life. 3 interesting things I've learned while at Coalition for Kids. I think one thing I've learned is not to judge a book by its cover. Don't look at a student and go, they're not worth your time, because that is so far from the truth. Second thing is determination and grit, because some of these students don't want to learn, and that's okay. You just need to be there and be present for them. And the third thing is the power of Christ, and the power of of a community. And that kind of goes in chapter 3, is that of our textbook, is a community is so important, and having a healthy community to raise people up it's life-changing. One opinion or view that I have as a service learner. I think one opinion or view I have is I want to see more participation from outside organizations and Coalition, because I know ETSU has partnered with Coalition for Kids. We had 7 ETSU students come to Kid City and make an obstacle course for the kids and allowing them to have fun. And I would love to see more involvement from ETSU. One way I've been challenged, my patience. Working with 6th and 7th graders, it can be a little exhausting. They're starting to have sass back, and hormones, puberty, things are happening, and you just got to be really patient. Sometimes I'd get frustrated, and sometimes I really hate being the bad guy. But sometimes you have to be the bad guy and discipline them, but you have to discipline them through love and talk through with them. Because of my service learning, I have become a more patient person. I've become a more loving person. I have become someone who understands that education is not all about learning. It's about being present.